Okay. I challenge myself by doing everything in French. Sometimes it makes sense. All right. Is it going? I was going to
It
ask
says
me for.
recording. It says
All
recording.
right. Fine. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's October 1st, 2020. This is the Kubernetes Cluster API for Azure meeting. We are being recorded, and this is a Kubernetes SIGs meeting, so please be on your best behavior. Basically, let's try not to talk over each other and maybe use the raise hand feature, although if it's just the four of us, it's probably not that urgent. Please add your name to the attendees list here, so we have a record. There's no new members or attendees as far as I can tell, but if somebody wants to say something random or unrelated, this would be a great time. Otherwise, let's just move on to the open discussion unless people have something. Cecile, you want to go first with CAPI?
Yeah, I added this at the top. Just wanted to mention that the 0310 CAPI release just dropped. And I think we had E2E signal on the CAPZ PR that Nader had opened. So we should be good, but I think now we can move that forward to 0310 and we should be able to bump it today.
I'll change the PR and push it now with like the latest.
Yeah, great. And then we'll follow up with the CAPZ release probably tomorrow or early next week, depending on if there are any PRs waiting.
Cool. Yeah, and my testing, I've been rebasing off of that, so that'd be great when it's a final. Want to move on to Nader? You want to talk about CAPI KCP upgrade?
Yeah, so we in the last meeting 2 weeks ago, we said we would increase the timeout for that and see how it would look over like a period of 2 weeks to see if the flakiness is any less. I think it's been less, but in the last few days, last couple of days, it's been failing again consistently. And in that PR with 310, I had to increase the timeout. It kept failing until I increased that timeout again. So if you don't mind clicking on like the test grid link, it will show like the pattern. I haven't yet investigated. I mean, it's been failing on timeouts, but I haven't looked into what happened. I thought the link here in the description will take you to the actual grid of the test. I would have thought with the changes to delete that Cecile made that things should have been faster. I mean, tests in general are faster, but this upgrade one fails on like waiting for the upgrade to happen. So it's kind of not related to the delete specifically, but.
And we haven't been able to report this locally, right?
For me, it works locally. But I can look into it again. This one, the upgrade one, the KCP upgrade with the cluster API test, has just been timing out consistently until, so last meeting we said we'd bump the timeout wait, like that it waits for the upgrade to happen and see if that's going to fix things. It fixed things a little bit, but not 100%. And in the PR for like 310, I had to bump it up again because it kept failing as well. Or it's been flaky.
So what is the current setting? What's the current amount of time?
It was like 50 minutes or something.
50? It was 40 minutes, yeah. Yeah. So way enough.
This is for all like the four. It's like this waits for all the VMs to be created with the new version and then the old ones removed as well. So the deletion of the VMs is included in that time.
But the deletion of an individual machine won't be improved with my delete changes because it only improves when you delete the whole cluster.
Yeah, because all the times it failed, you find it saying it's still finding the old ones, they're not gone yet. So that's the part where usually like the last part of the upgrade that it tests, that it checks that the old ones are already gone. And that's what usually fails here. I'm just
can
bringing
try
it up
to-
to see if there's any other ideas or something we should try.
I can try to get a local repro. I think the best way is to find out like if we get a repro and look at the logs, if it's actually failed in a state where it won't ever recover, and if so, why, or if it's just because it's still timing out and that it eventually gets in a good state.
I mean, every time we've increased the timeout, it passes, so it feels it's just taking too long.
So
We should
what's the theoretical amount of time that it should take? So when we go to create a VM, like I guess what I'm saying is it would be really great if we just had a theoretical time, and then we just look at and say, you know, how much time do we really think this is going to take? Also, the delete is, you know, definitely suboptimal, right? We're gonna delete one thing, wait, try the next, or do the next, wait, do the next, wait. When in fact, we could probably take a slightly different approach and just do like the delete no wait. Just try across everything, even if we get an error, and then just hit the reconcile loop again. Just say, hey, you know, let's time out for 15 seconds or something like that, and try to do the delete again and no wait, and just keep cycling through like that. The problem is we'll eat up Azure API calls, but we might be able to find a nice balance.
The
I
thing with
think-
oh, good.
Sorry, I was just gonna say this is mostly also just like a side note of the KCP code. So it's like a cluster API itself that's managing the creation and deletion of stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, so we're managing the deletion of the Azure machine, right? Cluster API tells us delete this machine, and then we delete the Azure machine and the actual resources. But the thing is, in the case of a machine, I actually looked at it when I was looking at deletion and optimization. It's really hard to do that because all of them depend on each other. Like what we're deleting is the network interface, the VM, the disk, and that's it. And the network interface, like the VM depends on a network interface and the disk depends on the VM or vice versa. So you can't really delete one before the other is completely deleted. And that's what we're doing right now. And so I feel like by adding a try to delete everything, we would just have more failures and it wouldn't necessarily go faster because we would just still be waiting for the same time.
So under the covers, the SDK is doing an exponential backoff when it's pulling for delete status. So when it goes and calls delete, it goes and, you know, 2, 4, 8, 32, 64, yada, yada, yada. And it does that. So it could be getting like the VM gets to like, I don't know, 128 and takes a big jump to 256 or something. So it could very easily, like sometimes it works and it just works beautifully. And then other times we get this really nasty exponential back off, and we can set the upper limit on that back off, or we could change the back off to be a linear back off. It really depends. Like we can do some things. The problem is it just takes a little while to delete the VM. It would be nice to actually just like drop out of the cluster, like stop participating, like tell it to stop participating, and it's still there, and we delete it behind the scenes or something.
What'd be great is if we could have metrics for these things and know exactly how long each part takes. Like if we could tell, like really, like right now we don't know, like we're speculating that delete takes a long time, and it probably does, but it'd be good if we could do an upgrade and see, okay, like this is how much time each part takes.
You know what? Maybe that's just what we do. That's a good idea. Like maybe we just need more information about it.
Yeah, can we even like log like the times and stuff before each operation, and then we can from that collect data.
Yeah, we could
We
instrument
could even-
everything.
We could instrument, we could log, like, what do we want to do? Do we want to just throw it into logs like low tech? Or do we want to actually just start adding Prometheus metrics or something?
Well, metrics is definitely better, but I don't know how much work it is.
Yeah, because if we see that the first 2 machines get upgraded in like 10, 15 minutes, and then the last one after 20 more minutes is still not upgraded, that's probably a problem. And whereas like if it's just like equally distributed, that tells us more about how it can sometimes go over.
Maybe this is the time we have to do the metrics and the dashboard, and that will show us a lot of other useful stuff too, not just this one problem.
Yeah.
It is that time.
In terms of doing metrics, do we have a clear like approach? Like I remember last time we looked at it, it wasn't really how can I say, like we didn't really know which way we wanted to go with metrics.
Yeah, I remember a while back, like Cluster API was trying to have like the same approach
Yeah.
as all the providers and all that, and then like nothing happened there.
Yeah, and then there's also the thing that Brian showed at the office hours using Jaeger. I don't know if that's also an option.
Oh yeah.
I would just love to go down the open telemetry route, like Jaeger plus metrics, and we're just putting out metrics. If we want to expose Prometheus, we expose Prometheus. If we want to do something else, we plug in something else.
Yeah, I think we might have to start the effort here and then push it towards Cluster API itself, because it doesn't seem, I have not heard anybody talk about it recently.
Sounds good. I can try to get a local repro in the meantime. At least try to do that.
Why don't I try to write up like what the metrics would be that we're going to track for a given controller? Or how about we use this case and we start small, pick some metrics, and then let's see how they work. Just experiment. If it works well, then maybe we expand. If not, let's just learn from it.
Perfect.
Sounds
You
great.
could
And
you could start with delete metrics.
yes,
If
it's a
you
lot
want to.
easier to expand once we have a base.
How's that?
Where are we going to put these? Like, so Prometheus, Jaeger or Prometheus, it's really, you just run it in your cluster and Prometheus is going to go start grabbing up metrics. These clusters are short-lived, right? There are test clusters. Where are we putting this stuff? I mean, do I pump metrics out to like App Insights?
Probably not. I mean, I don't know if people would want that in their clusters, right?
Well, I mean,
or is that just for us for like testing?
We could use it for testing. I mean, if you're like, where would Nader? I don't want to poison this. Where would you want your metrics?
I would want my metrics on Azure, I guess, on like a different thing on Azure. If I'm running Azure stuff, for our case at least. Ideally, I would want like another, like I would want Prometheus running somewhere. So like in a different, like an instance running, and then I'm sending to it. And then everybody can install it wherever they want, kind of thing.
Is there a way, this might be crazy, but is there a way to have it accessible from Prow? Like if I go in the artifacts folder, that gives me like, there's like a file metrics and it gives me like a link to go see the metrics. And it's publicly accessible.
Wouldn't
So-
be like a dashboard kind of thing. It would be like a log, I guess.
Yeah. So what if we had a log outputter for metrics? So if you're, if you wanted to, like OpenTelemetry supports different outputters. So Prometheus usually scrapes, right? You have an endpoint that Prometheus goes out and says, hey, tell me your metrics. And then Prometheus collects them and then processes them, right? The reason why I said App Insights is because that allows us to push those, and then it's a managed service that runs inside of Azure. That's what it collects, right? But I do like the Prow thing better, because then that gives us the ability to just say, hey, it's here. You don't have to have access to any, possibly permissioned resource or something. That's kind of what you're pushing towards, right, Cecile?
Yeah.
Yeah. It probably won't be very pretty, but we can grab our way through.
Like, I just mean a way for people to see it who are investigating their own end-to-end tests on their PR. Like, I don't want this to require any special access. Like, you shouldn't need access to the like E2E resource group in Azure. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and I think it'd be really weird to try to expose the Prometheus endpoint outside of the cluster to, like, say, some other Prometheus service that's going to be coming in to gather up logs. Because if it doesn't gather them up in a timely basis and the controller ends up getting destroyed before before it can get the metrics out, it would be difficult to debug.
So who's going to get started on the metrics? Because I know, David, you were already working on a few things, but you seem interested.
Actually, I really just have authoring work to do at this point. I was working on the encryption secret stuff, but I think we're waiting on Nadir, and I don't think there's much out there right now. So unless there's something more pressing, I'm happy to do this. I'd love to.
That sounds good to me.
And based on the secret stuff, do we want to push that out to the next milestone?
Yeah, the other milestone ends today, so definitely. Unless you can get this done by lunch. Yes.
It's a sprint.
Cool.
We actually have to go through it at the end, so.
Yeah, all right.
Cool. Are we done with this topic, or? David volunteers is all I heard. All right. Next thing, the only other thing on the list is a self-serving thing I put up there. So probably everybody knows I've been working on, for a couple days, implementing the log collector for Azure. It basically just boils down to, and I'm just looking for some fresh ideas because I think I see a way to get it done, but I'm not at all happy about it. So it basically boils down to, there's just a callback method and some other little scaffolding you set up inside E2E tests. And then the callback gets called when we're dumping and collecting logs from clusters we create. And then inside that, obviously, you want to connect to the node and basically do system CTL, summarize a few essential logs and save those locally. So the problem with Azure and the way we're setting up clusters is the only way you can actually, the only way I'm aware of is SSH. I looked at Bastion for a while, but it's not clear to me that that's available outside the portal, or that there's an SDK wrapping it yet. David's shaking his head no. Don't use Bastion or
It is purely UI.
yeah, that's what it looked like to me. They kind of wave their hands about multiple connections and stuff, but I guess they're actually saying you want to open that many instances of the portal, so that really doesn't help us. So as far as I can tell, we're stuck with SSH. The only way into the cluster safely is through the publicly advertised IP through a master, and then jumping from there to a node. That's a little funky to set up. I don't want to write the tunneling code in Go, so I was falling back on just shelling out to SSH and doing like -J to jump through, which will work, but obviously there's some other issues involving, known hosts, key checking, and all that you have to massage around, which is a pain in the butt. And then the most problematic thing is the context you get in the callback is just, here's a machine, here's a VM, go ahead and scrape the logs off of it. So the only reasonable way I see to do that is to make further either AZ CLI or API calls to say, okay, well, what resource group am I in? Do I have a load balancer public IP? Well, go in through that. And yes, Cecile, stop me before I go farther off the rails.
Okay, so when we first discussed this in the CAPI issue, the consensus was to go with a daemon set that would run and collect the logs on the nodes, just like we do for the conformance test. The downside of that is that you can only get the logs from nodes that have actually joined the cluster. So if a node fails to join, then you can't get the logs, which is not great. But that was the idea when we started this, was, okay, this is best effort. It's better than nothing. So we'll start with that. And I'm wondering if the framework that Fabrizio wrote actually like makes any assumptions on that, or if does it just not at all like specify how
it doesn't. No, you just have a single callback method, and then at that point, it's up to you. They have some useful code for like setting up what logs you would want to scrape, but like the Docker implementation just sort of makes a direct connection. The Amazon uses their they have kind of a Bastion-like service that lets you get into any host directly, which is nice. That would be nice to use.
So the other thing is we do have the Bootstrap boot diagnostics enabled now, and you can actually get that from Azure CLI or the SDK client. You can get those logs directly. That does not include kubelet logs though right now. It's
which
only
is what we want.
Cloud init and boot logs. Well, we want Cloud init mostly for now.
Yeah.
At first. But we also want kubelet afterwards. But that's a good, easy way to get Cloud init without needing to like SSH. So that's another.
We can get Cloud init through
yeah, it has all of Cloud init.
Okay.
And you can do AZ boot something. I forget the command, but yeah.
And so we have the AZ. I guess I've seen it in PR. So we do have AZ, the CLI available to us in E2E.
Or you can use the client also, the SDK. Sorry, go ahead, David.
But for some of this, the CLI. David, go ahead.
What if we just mount a share on there, and part of the script just on the exit handle just writes files to a share, and then we just grab them off the share? Rather than like a shared mount. So like an NFS share or something like that. We set up an NFS share, mount it to the VM during the test runs, and then have the exit handler in the CSE end up like dropping those, or apply a new extension, a script extension or something like that, and have it drop the files at the end onto NFS.
Like as a post-Kubanian command. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
Wouldn't that be like a persistent volume or something? That's probably a little bit slow to mount and all that? Or is that like a storage, Azure storage or something?
I was thinking Azure storage.
Okay.
And we could have a NFS disk and then it's just like test run UUID or something like that as like folder and then machine names or something. I don't know. Then we can grab them out of that storage and then save them for Prow.
Yeah, that would work. It kind of feels simpler to have them all mount some persistent volume and then have some other pod go in there and just pull the files off of it. But maybe I'm not thinking. Do you think that's simpler, or do you think just setting up the NFS and all that as a precondition for all the tests sounds like a pain, but maybe it wouldn't be that hard? Yeah.
I don't know. SSH isn't too horrible.
Well, it's kind of horrible here because tunneling through because finding the master is not a definitive thing. You know, you're kind of like making a lot of assumptions that tunneling through this one IP address will get you through a host that knows how to get to the other one. Yeah.
I actually have working code in Go that I had written for something else for rotating certificates that does the agent forwarding and stuff. If you want, I can share with you.
Oh, in Go?
That could
Yeah.
help. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got the commands running through exec command, but it's ugly. And it's also, you kind of have to, you have to run two commands, right? Because the -o, don't check if I'm in known hosts, reduce strict checking only applies to the first host, not the second one. So you have to kind of pave the way by making an initial command that does that and then does an SSH command on the second host. So it adds it to known hosts there so you can go all the way through the second time. I don't think there's a better approach for that, but with Go, you could do whatever.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought about the daemon set approach and modifying everything to dump stuff to a volume, because I was mostly looking at the upstream code and they do it a little more dynamically. So I was trying to take an SSH style approach, but maybe that's not
Daemon
worth
set
it.
could also mount the volume.
Yeah. Well, these are all good ideas that I hadn't thought of, so that's why I was asking you guys. I think I'll play around with volume mounts and the daemon set approach and see. That's probably going to get me a lot farther than grinding down this SSH path. Although, I mean, that's conceptually pretty simple. I guess the only thing I really don't like about the SSH path is there doesn't seem to be is the assumption that we have to look at the resource group, because I don't see any better way. If you're just given the context of here's a machine, and that's all essentially we get in the callback, is there some more reliable way to go from that to getting to the way to get into the master?
Yeah.
Back to the,
you can get the cluster because the cluster is the owner, and then you can get the control plane endpoint from there that has the DNS name.
Okay, well, if there's a direct link there, then that doesn't sound so hacky either, actually.
I just sent you the code, but basically it's just a function that takes like the fkd and the command that you want to run, and then like a port, and it just runs the command on the host.
Okay, well, I don't have a clear path forward, but I have a lot of options now, so I think we can leave it there for right now, and I'll go back to the drawing board. Thanks very much for all the ideas. Do we have anything else you want to say today for CAPZ stuff?
Do we want to take a look at the milestone?
That's what we want to do. I'll stop sharing because I can't manage that board. Oh boy, if I can figure out how to stop sharing.
Anyone want to drive, or I can if not. All right.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
go for it.
You can see GitHub, right? Okay. All right. So this is technically due tomorrow. Yeah. So how do we want to do this? Because I know CAPI is done with like the big like V1 Alpha 3 releases. But I think we should still do another one because we're not going to have the V1 Alpha 4 types right away. Or does anyone think we shouldn't do that? We should just start with the V1 Alpha 4 types right now at the same time in vendor and main branch from CAPI.
I think we still have things to work on that are still like in our 04 series before we get that. It's going to take them a while to make that stable and make a release of it. So we can't make any, and then we may have to make our own changes. So I think it might be 1 or 2 milestones even before.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I think we should maybe try to like get the ones we didn't get done in this one and not try to like over like stuff it with new stuff. So we're still like on the way to slow down and trying to get the things that we really want to get done instead of like trying to get new bigger features in.
Yeah, makes sense.
So next time would be the 30th, I guess. Okay. So I'll just move everything that's open and then we can triage.
I was just thinking, I wonder if we could close the E2E test should print more debug output. I was thinking of doing that. We can move it and then close it either way.
Close. Yeah, so this is what's there right now. So let's just go through the list. Enhancement proposal, David, do we want to move that to next or is it still relevant right now?
Should get it done.
Does it make sense to get it done now if we're not close to the implementation? Or would you rather wait?
I was actually, before we started talking about metrics, I was going to bring up writing this up so I can start working on the refactoring for this. So part of what will be needed for the reconciliation, the cloud resource reconciliation, would be breaking out all of the reconcile services that we have so that we can replace an interface there with one implementation or another. So basically all of our reconcilers, if we take all those reconcilers together, we have all these different services that we need to have reconciled. Basically, we need a high-level service that encompasses all of those different reconcilers.
Isn't that what we already have with Azure.service, the interface?
Well, that is for an individual reconciler.
Oh, you want one big one, okay.
Yeah, so basically we could say we have a service that will handle all of the different things that we need from our cloud. And it just reconciles those. So, so part of that refactor, I was intending on starting on, or at least I was thinking about starting on, to get that code structured in such a way that we could replace one with another just based on like some config setting for the controller. So before we want to do that, we probably want to write up what the design really should be, then have everybody say yeah or no, change this stuff. So the sooner that we get the proposal out there, the sooner that work can start. So I'd like to get the proposal in, and I wanted to do it in the last one. So,
Okay, so I will leave it in here.
okay.
Sounds good. Okay, private clusters. I am definitely working on that. I'm working on that right now. Don't have a PR yet. It's a really big change. I think it should stay in here for now, but I might, if it's too big of a change, I might have to move it to be 0.5 if it becomes breaking.
What's the biggest blocker there? Like, what's the biggest chunks?
It's backwards compatibility. We can talk about it a bit more, but basically I'm adding, like we weren't before, the load balancer spec was all done in the controller, like it was all hard coded. There was no user configuration part of it. And because I'm like adding a whole new spec, it's just like, if you weren't using that spec before, you won't have it defined. And so, well, if you have an existing cluster, that spec will all be empty. And so it's like, how do we reconcile the load balancer of clusters that pre-existed without these new features or these new settings? I have a prototype. Actually, I'll paste it in the issue, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Multi-tenancy. The status.
I kind of worked on it for a little bit and had a chat with David, but got distracted by a bunch of other issues, like smaller things and some VMware stuff. But I was planning on working on this for the next few days and like not picking up any other stuff until I have this, at least like a work in progress PR, just to have the conversation started.
Okay, so definitely still relevant.
Yeah, sorry about taking too long with that.
Failure domains for Azure machine pools. That's a PR that's been open for a while. I'm gonna move it to next because even though we have the PR, I think we've pushed it several milestones. And if it
Is that
gets
something
done
that
before,
we need
great.
to get it? Like, do we need? I reached out to Jose, who's like the person, and he said he's just too busy. I was asking him if he needs help finishing up his stuff, and he's like, he has a couple of PRs, and he said he wants to work on them, but he's just like busy with his other stuff.
So he did, I think he merged the CAPI, it's not linked here, but there's a CAPI PR to add this to machine pools, and that merged. This was the remaining work.
Yeah, we also have the end-to-end test to add to for machine pools.
Yes, we should add that to this milestone, right?
Yeah.
Is there an issue for that already, or? Okay. Internal load balancer created for public cluster. I'm actually fixing that as part of private clusters because it's all related. Does not currently handle the separate route tables where it's, yeah, where are we at on that?
It's ready, I think. Like there's a PR and I think it has everything we talked about.
Okay. So we just need to review it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I even rebased it a couple of days ago.
This one, you said we should close it, Matt?
I mean, unless people think of more specific things, I put all the logging in there I thought of, so I say we close it.
I think the original scope of the issue is done. If we think of more things, we'll open a new issue.
Exactly.
For this space. What's next? Expose cloud provider, rate limiting configuration. I don't think anyone has asked for this specifically, and I don't think anyone is working on this. So I think we should consider pushing it to next and marking it as help.
Yeah, it's pretty big, I think, now that they've changed how all the things are different, like a lot of different traits that you have to.
All right. Okay, the network describer interface, I think I'll leave it in here, and if Ace doesn't get to it, I'll take it. I think that's pretty easy to do. Improvements in E2E, is this done?
I mean,
or?
There's a lot in here. I think the main thing that's remaining is we'd like to be able to run against an existing cluster without re-provisioning it. And I have some work done in that area, but I'm not quite done.
Okay. So do you want to keep that open to track that?
Yeah,
or
it's still,
okay.
yeah, it's still something I like to do very soon. So I think it's
Okay,
in
sounds
the
good.
right place.
This one, no one has been looking at it, and I think we should.
Wasn't that related to the provider or something?
It is.
That- There was something that
Yeah,
we were
I asked.
pending on.
No.
Oh,
Okay. Let's just leave it for now, and I'll
Okay.
follow up on that. Net
That's the
gateway
other
support.
existing. Yeah, it has an existing PR as well that's been saying for a while.
Yeah, that one had comments that weren't addressed, and then has merge conflicts. But I mean, I can leave it, I think, or what should I do? Yeah, I'll leave it. Oh, this one we might want to move to next. David, it's the secure sensitive bootstrap data.
Yes, definitely next.
Next, okay. Do you also want to be unassigned, or do you want to keep
Yeah,
it?
actually, I meant to do that.
Milestone.
What's
you.
the command for? I don't know. I'll just do this. Okay. And then, oh, this we want to keep for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tracking at least.
Yeah, let's, do you want to summarize the action items from the meeting for the metrics and everything? And then we'll keep it in here. All right.
And David posted the URL of one we should add. Did you do that?
Oh, did you just open it? It'll be at the top.
No, that's an existing.
Yes, let me get the chat.
Just to add it to the milestone.
Oh,
nice.
yeah. Are we doing that this milestone?
It will probably go with 970. So
What's 970?
I just created 970.
That's writing the test.
Yeah. So that other test is probably going to fail. Or at least that.
Oh, yeah.
Because the CAPZ test there, what it does is it scales up, scales down, and then upgrades. So machine pool upgrade, I think, has been troublesome for a little bit. Like it just doesn't apply the new model.
Yeah, definitely want to see that done. I just don't know in terms of people if we have enough time to get this done.
Well, if that doesn't get done, then the other test doesn't work.
That's true. That is true.
And to be honest, I would be thrilled to go fix that.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of stuff accumulating.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure we have enough for the others too. But no, I'd love to see that working. That'd be great. Okay.
Or if anybody else wants it, they're welcome to it as well.
Are there any other issues that are top of mind that people think should be going into this milestone that are important?
Is this load balancer for IPv6 something that is broken that needs to be fixed quickly?
Oh,
or?
yeah, it should be in there. Oh, it's not. I'm fixing that as for private clusters as well. Yeah, maybe I should do a little write up on that because it's getting really big.
You said 046.
Yeah,
Oh,
wrong
did I?
milestone.
Oh no, I don't know why.
It's already done. Yes.
If only.
That was me trying to sweep it under the rug. This issue never happened. You didn't see it. Okay.
This
Good.
the network API thing, is that something we should look into, or we don't have to upgrade to that version?
It is, but it's not priority, I would say. It's more like whenever we do move to the next SDK, if we end up moving there for another reason faster than we thought, we need to make sure this is done as part of that. But I don't think we should push to do that in the next milestone.
No.
Oh, I think this is definitely happening. I mean, yeah.
The PR, I think, is pretty
Right.
much done.
Yes. So. Okay. We could consider doing the conditions for deletion. That's.
I think we already have a lot of stuff considering it's only like 4 weeks.
Okay. All right. Yes, I was the
Is
one
that
that
fair?
said we shouldn't add too much stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, does it look like it has enough things?
Yeah, that looks
Unless
like
you
enough to
decide
me.
the private cluster is just going to require like breaking changes and push it out, then we can add more stuff at that point.
Yeah, if I do end up pushing it out, I'll pick up more stuff and add it to the milestone. All right. Anything else that I forgot?
I think all good.
How is this working for everybody? Is there anything we can do better?
You mean the meeting? Or the-
Well, meeting prioritization. Are we working effectively together? Slack. Should we throw more emojis out? Is a text to emoji ratio correct?
I know we don't have enough emojis for sure.
That's clear.
I think it's like it feels like there's nothing I have any issues with except that like I wish there was more people. At some point there was. I don't know where everybody went.
I wonder if this timing really is discouraging
Yeah.
people. It didn't seem like it was that much of a change.
More people liked it than the other one, but I think
Yeah.
the people who said they preferred this time were also people who don't come every time. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we were trying to be inclusive also to folks who
Time
perhaps
zones, yeah.
hadn't come before, like the New Zealand folks that are on a sister team to us. They haven't been coming to meetings. I think we were hoping that maybe they would. At least I was. It doesn't seem to have worked out. So I wonder if there's a better time for this. I think we were also looking at what folks across pond.
Yeah.
yeah, I think there are also like phases and periods where more things happen in cluster API versus more things happen in the providers. And I think this is one of those times where more things are happening in the core cluster API with like V1 Alpha 4 coming up and the last release. So I think that's where everyone is kind of putting their focus right now, me like included. And so I think there's less happening right now. It's more boring in the infrastructure providers, which is fine.
Yeah, that's fair. It will pick up when we have the new types and the Alpha 4 and stuff. There'll be a lot more work too.
Yeah. But my hope is that this office hours start being more of an office hours and have like users come and, you know, we can like have conversations with users and not just like us that we like the maintainers who already talk to each other most days outside of this, you know.
Yeah, maybe we should nudge more people on Slack to come here, like every time someone asks a question.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly,
maybe already
for
do that.
example.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can also like put a note in the cloud provider Azure Slack. Maybe they might be interested, whoever works there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And we should maybe also promote it, the meeting like internally. You said like David, you know, some people might not be aware or might not remember that this is happening now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we can mention it in the also like the CAPI meeting. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
We need marketing, I guess.
Well, that's something that you know, we've been talking a bit about, like how do we write about the work that we're doing and start to speak out to the community and more users, because I think we're at that place where you know, we have some, you know, pretty solid functionality that people could take advantage of. Cool. One outreach we're coming up is November at GopherCon. We're going to be doing a workshop, and we're going to be focused on GitHub and like GitFlow and Go, you know, building Go code in GitHub. And one of the things that we're going to work on is cluster API GitFlow at GopherCon. So I don't know, just a heads up, if anybody's interested, they're welcome to participate, and I'll send you some details if you all want to.
You mean like trying to do the Git flow workflow for CAPI is the idea?
Heck yeah, for
Yeah.
show. Yeah, blow that up and make Craig's head explode. Craig.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. If anybody wants to, and it's GopherCon's a really great event. If you haven't gone before in the past, it's really fun. So if anybody's interested, they're welcome to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like we're more having like a podcast than office hours now.
Just call it a podcast. Maybe more people will come.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right.
All right.
Matt, you want to close?
Oh yeah, sure. I guess that's all we got. Thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you in 2 weeks. I will post the recording in the document.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.